the Plumbify Podcast, I have Amanda Hewer and Ryan Palmer from the Master Builders Association. Both Amanda and Ryan are coordinators of the Master Builders Born to Build program, which I'm looking forward to discussing today. Thanks for joining me, Amanda and Ryan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Ryan, to kick us off, can you speak to the Master Builders Born to Build program and why it's so important, how it came about?
For sure. Everyone's pretty aware that there's a pretty big skill shortage at the moment in the industry. So Master Builders have got on the front foot with the Born to Build program, which is just about inspiring and educating the next generation of tradies with a big focus on youth, female and Aboriginal participation. So
yeah, sweet.
Just sort of spreading the awareness of what the industry is, what's involved in a trade, and sort of showing the benefits and the lifestyle and trying to get inspiring more people into it.
Yeah, and how about do you guys go? Is it's schools, sporting clubs? Amanda?
Yeah, we're hitting schools pretty hard.
Yeah.
We've done a fair few presentations already, getting pretty good feedback. Discussing bits and pieces with the kids. We're starting to get into sporting communities as well, sort of thinking about the bigger picture and building a future on and off the field, if you like. But yeah, really targeting the younger kids to sort of get them informed about all the possibilities out there in building and construction. Yeah,
that's so important because you guys at the Master Builders are also sponsoring that. I think you went out there the other day, the Aboriginal Basketball Academy.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, got a lot going on there at the moment, which is great.
And that's like what a great opportunity to try and get kids like within that sporting group to think about starting a trade. They're all like young, fit kids, perfect to start a trade.
So well suited.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really important.
There's definitely been a bit of a shift as well in the culture of what a sporting club is these days. Back in the day, you rocked up, you played your footy, you played your soccer, whatever it was, and then that was that. And we're definitely seeing a shift, and I think it's an important thing. And it's shifting in a lot of different spaces, but the support that a sporting club can offer, and that's where we're trying to sort of add value. We're sort of saying to them, look, we can help and come support your players through not only their sporting journey but also their life journey. Sporting clubs are a great place to gain a sense of community and a sense of purpose, and being able to go to a club and say, look, we can help facilitate career paths and help foster and mentor your young players off the field as well. And that's really appealing to sporting clubs and definitely something that we're really trying to contribute to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And I want to definitely touch on how the program works and how it facilitates things shortly. But anyone with a business like a trade business would know how hard it is to get someone to come and work for you essentially. And then on the flip side, any consumer who's trying to get a tradie, even myself, it's an absolute nightmare at the moment. Like the lead times are usually crazy. Even just to get someone out to give you a quote is difficult. I wanted to ask Amanda, what's the trade you're seeing the most shortages in at the moment?
Yeah, look, it is pretty across the board, but we're definitely seeing a shortage in bricklayers.
Yeah.
We've actually had heaps of carpentry potential apprentices come through recently, which is good, so kind of hitting that target. But yeah, Ryan, do you want to... Yeah,
bricklaying's the big one. That's probably the most public one as well, because there's so much residential building going on at the moment. It's very common to see like reverse builds. So the frame's up, the roof's on, the walls are sheeted, everything's done. There's still no bricks.
Yeah, it's just
that's
wrapped.
Probably the one that we see is probably the most public trade. I mean, you've spoken to me numerous times about a lack of roof plumbers as well.
Yeah.
So that I also know another friend that owns a roofing company up in the hills that's saying the same thing. He just cannot find apprentices. So carpentry, electrical and plumbing are sort of the big three that most people have awareness of. But there's so many wall and ceiling lining. There's so many different other trades out there that are massive shortage as well.
Wall and floor tilers, I think, well, from my perspective in the trades, without knowing any data about it, seems to be definitely a difficult one to get a hold of. And actually, speaking of bricklayers, I got told the other day by a friend in the building industry they're paying like $3 a brick now.
Yeah, the last I heard it was about mid-2s, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's probably pushing 3 now, just because it's just this ongoing shortage is just a real issue. Bricklaying, I think, is from what I've seen is the big one that really needs attention pretty quick.
Yeah, it's I never even sort of clicked to what was going on, but when you're going past all these new houses and they're literally wrapped in sarking or plastic, and then you walk through the front door and they're literally finished.
It's that handover.
It seems like that's just been a new like that reverse build has only popped up in the last sort of 3 or 4 years. I can't say I'd ever really noticed it before.
There's a few builders that have been doing it for a little while. They've sort of got ahead of the game, which is really good. But yeah, definitely in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, it's really, and not by choice, because they just cannot get bricklayers at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a real issue. Yeah.
Heaps of opportunity in bricklaying then, eh?
Massive money to be made at the moment. And I really think that there's going to be, it's probably now's the best time to ever be a bricklayer, because especially with the world sustainability and all, natural resources and all that good stuff, like I really think there's going to be a pivot quite soon to new resources that have never been used. So especially in a place like Adelaide, where it's always a little bit behind the times, if you can get in early, you can get your foot in the door and really be proactive in finding what the next big thing is going to be that builders are really going to look for.
Yeah.
Some eco-friendly material that's, you're the only one in Adelaide using it. I think it's a really good time to you can really carve out a really good niche for yourself in the industry at the moment. Bricklayer, never been a better time to be a bricklayer. With the money that's going and, like I said, opportunities like that coming through, I think it's a great time.
And added initiatives, I found out the other day. So the government's really pushing sustainability. So they're offering added incentives to apprentices that are working for builders that are thinking about the future and working in sustainability. So
renewable energies.
Yep.
Are they incentives like for the apprentice or for the builder or for both? Do you know how they work?
For the company, I'm pretty sure. So if you're you might know more.
I think Deb from Hewer was saying that the apprentice gets it's a cash incentive at certain stages. So apprentices will get bonuses or money incentives during their apprenticeship anyway, but it's an extra amount on top kind of thing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of incentives, like they've stopped it now, but they had that I don't know what they called that incentive, but where you took on an apprentice, it was like mid-COVID, and the government would pay half their wage for the first year of the apprenticeship. We had it a lot in plumbing, and it was huge, and it did give us heaps of incentive to bring on apprentices because they were basically half price for the first year. I wish I could remember the name. I'll put it in the show notes, but that was huge. And one of the things I've been thinking about is, to have a first year apprentice, they're still costing a company like about $1,000 a week. So they are I think maybe from my perspective as a business owner, it's like it would be awesome if maybe some of these incentives might need to come back. Mostly the way I'm thinking is because it is actually quite expensive to have an apprentice, and then on the flip side, apprentices aren't making huge coin at the moment. So I think maybe as like where I'm going with this is like as an incentive for kids to want to take up an apprenticeship, maybe I keep thinking to myself, maybe they need to start. It would be awesome if they thought about bringing in some sort of incentives for the apprentice, because the cost of living these days and everything. I think that might be something that turns them off a bit. Although that in doing an apprenticeship they do get paid, which is awesome compared to uni, but it's not a lot at the start. And I think what turns kids off is the fact that they think, it's hard to think long term. They're not thinking 4 years down the track when they're going to be killing it, but they're thinking like, how am I going to get through this first 2 years? I want to try and leave home. I'm not going to be with my parents anymore. I'm going to have to pay for all these things. How do you guys see that? Because I think the cost of living pressures might be a disincentive for some people to take up an apprenticeship.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like saying the cost of living at the moment is huge, and there's been a big shift in that, and especially with the labour shortage at the moment, encouraging mature age, anyone over 21 into the trades. There's a lot of people that want to pivot. Yeah. And there's a lot of talk at the moment about trying to bring back some incentives to subsidise the cost of mature age, because they obviously cost more. So it's something that master builders are looking at quite a bit, and a lot of other organisations of how we can, maybe go to the government or whatever it looks like to try and get some subsidies back, because we're sitting here with screaming for people, and there's people that are maybe mid-20s or late 20s that have started a career that they really want to pivot from or don't enjoy or want to give this a crack, and we're sitting there going, yeah, cool, we need you, but you cost too much. So that you can't push and pull at the same time. There's got to be some shift. So something that's definitely comes up a lot, and especially if you're traditionally you started, most people, I was only talking to my father about this on the weekend about he started his apprenticeship when he was 15. You know, he still lived at home. He didn't need
That's
a lot.
where,
You know, and that has definitely shifted now. There's a big push for SACE. There's a big push for finishing year 12. So you're a lot older when you're starting your, you know, and Amanda and I we both started ours in our early 20s as well. So I used to work at the pub on the weekend just to pay my bills because it wasn't much, you know, but I think you're right, having that, you've got to have that long game in your head. But easier said than done. I do agree. So
I think the coolest thing at the moment is school kids have got so many opportunities at school. So in year 11, you can be starting and finishing your Cert 2, which is a foot in the door to start, you know, and then in year 12, you can be starting a school-based apprenticeship. So by the time you finish school, you can have your SACE and you can be, you know, fairly well into your apprenticeship at, you know, 17, 18. So I don't know many 17-year-olds that are ready to leave home. So, you know, by the time they're 20, they're fully qualified and ready to get out there and hit hard.
That is important, actually, because I did personally, I finished my apprenticeship when I was just before I turned 21, you know, because I just left. I didn't do year 12 because school wasn't for me, but so that was actually awesome. I did the hard yards early, but I was, like you said, I was just living at home because I was only 17, 18, 19, 20. Then by the time I was, you know, before I turned 21, I'd finished my apprenticeship. So, but it's sort of the mature age thing. It does get a bit harder when they're, you know, not living at home and stuff like that.
Definitely.
You know?
It's such a huge opportunity to recruit to solve this skill shortage we've got. So there needs to be something happening there to make it more appealing. For business owners and for apprentices as well.
Both sides.
Definitely.
And for a bit of context, am I right in saying you guys are both Sparkies?
I'm an electrician.
You're a data.
I'm a data Sparky. Specialised.
Comes up all the time.
So when did you start yours, Ryan?
So I started mine 21, I think. 21, just turned 22. Yeah, so I joined the military out of high school, spent some time in the army working with the helicopters, and then when I left the army, I picked up my apprenticeship, which was great. And
Amanda, what's your sort of background in the trades?
So I went travelling after school. Had no idea what I wanted to do. Went to uni for a year. Wasn't for me. Bought a caravan and started travelling around Australia. And it was when I was 22 that a very good friend of mine in Darwin said that she wanted to learn a trade. And that was the first moment that I realised that was sort of an opportunity for me. I did some research and contacted Peer. And by the time we travelled down the East Coast, which was probably about a year later, I sat my interview, my aptitude tests, and started my apprenticeship. 22. I was 22 when I started.
And that was an apprenticeship like in data.
4 years.
Is that what it's called?
Telecommunications. So, data cabler.
Is there a bit of a, you know, is
rivalry?
Electricians
No,
better
not
than
at
rivalry?
all.
That's the word I was looking for.
Not even a little bit.
No?
It's one of those things, like you get in the army too, you know, the army will fight with the navy, but then as soon as someone starts on the navy, we're best friends. So same thing. So we're both sitting here, but we're probably closer than plumbers. So you're probably actually the enemy.
Ow!
If I'm being honest.
On site, there is a bit of a rivalry. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. I could just feel the little tension there. When you got I'm a Sparky and she's a data cabler.
We'll have our little battles, but then if you say something, then we're best friends.
Oh, that's right. I see how this works.
Yeah.
And Amanda, I think getting more women into the trade seems to be a really important piece of the puzzle. And as a woman in the construction industry, I'd love to hear some of the barriers or the challenges you faced, you know, in your trade career, and if you could speak to some of the concerns maybe that, like common concerns women might have about a career in construction, and also, it's a long question, but also some of the resources and that they have now to be able to, you know, get through their apprenticeship.
Yeah, sure. The best thing about this day and age is there's so much support no matter what your gender. So like Ryan was saying, there's a big push, the skill shortages industry-wide, and we're definitely looking at addressing that. I think the only sort of barriers, like when I started, it was a man's world. And let's be honest, that women are still outnumbered for sure. But it's not so uncommon to see a female in high vis. You know, people don't sort of double take quite so much. And I think the main thing is because there's so much support out there, there's so many incentives, there's so many, high vis, Women Building Australia, there's lots of support out there for women. We're really driving the point that it really doesn't matter who you are, where you've come from, whether you're a man or a woman or whatever. Construction's for everybody. And I think the more opportunity we get to speak to these young kids, to let them know that it's an opportunity for them as well, to really break down that stigma. That's what we're all about, because really the only barrier out there is traditional kind of stereotypes, which have no place in construction.
No, yeah, that's definitely. I got that feeling when I did my apprenticeship back in mid 2000s, I suppose. Started maybe about 2004. There was barely. You go to trade school, you wouldn't see one. There was just no women doing it, and it's so awesome now to see lots of women taking up trades. And I think maybe it's been like since the social media has come in a bit more, and there's just all these awesome tradie lady sort of Instagram pages and stuff. Like, even for me, it's just inspiring to see that sort of gear. I think
social media's changed everything, and I think Amanda's got a very good point. Things like high vis, Narwick, having those visible examples, like you're saying, it's very rare. Traditionally, it's been very rare to see a female. So if you are that one female, you think you're the only one, or you feel like you're the only one. But having examples like Amanda at Born to Build, and having high vis and these other people around, visible examples that you can see, touch, and feel that you're not the only one, I think is crucial and helping make that shift.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
And spreading a positive kind of insight as well. Like, I love my job. The only reason I'm not on the tools now is because this opportunity came up, and it was like too good to pass up.
Yeah.
So it's a really good place, and I think over the 18 years that I've spent on the tools, there has been a noticeable shift in mentality. All the young guys coming up, all the apprentices now are very respectful. Just the way that they speak around site, the way that they speak to their peers. It's a lot different to how it was when I started. So it's a good place to be.
So are you getting a lot more girls in the schools interested in taking up apprenticeships? Like, is the data showing that they? Seems to be from I
think so. Yeah, definitely. It's still early days in Born to Build, so we're still sort of gathering that data as we go. But I think Amanda gave a presentation, a little trade out at Mitcham's all-girls school, and you said they were engaged and enjoyed it.
It was really cool. So we're trying to get some activities involved with our PowerPoints, with our presentations, so it's not just very
death by PowerPoint.
Just content heavy, and so we're trying to sort of think of a way of really getting the kids engaged. So getting some activities, getting some races going and stuff like that really seems to spark a bit more of an interest and get the kids involved. At Mitcham, we knocked up a timber frame, and just having the girls using power tools, they
loving it.
Yeah, you could see that there were butterflies in the belly, and they were really engaged. And, asking, can I keep this drill? It was cool, and you could see that they wanted to do it again and again. So
that's so good.
Which is an opportunity that they, unless Amanda and Born to Build were there, it's an opportunity they might not have had. One of the things we sort of say, if your dad's an accountant, your mum's a lawyer, what chance have you got of ever knowing what a chippy does or what a telecommunications technician does? And are you ever going to touch a drill? You're probably not. You know? So that's the power that we can, the message we're trying to send, and our superpower that we can do is showing that.
And that leads perfectly into the next question I had, which is something that Will Frogley mentions a lot, is that there's that common misconception that, like, if you're struggling at school, you're not going to go to uni, that the second or third option is a trade, and I'd like to just hear you guys' thoughts around that sort of like old school way of thinking, which doesn't seem super enticing for a kid when they're like, Jimmy, like, you're struggling, mate, maybe you should think about being a bricklayer. That whole old school mentality just needs to change, I think.
Massively, and it's something that we've been talking about for a while, and something I'm pretty passionate about in the sense that you should want to do a trade. And this is sort of one of my taglines, is like, it should be the foundation of which you build your career upon. I never thought, and I'm sure Amanda feels the same way, that we'd ever be sitting here doing a podcast talking to you right now about this stuff when we started our apprenticeship. You know,
exactly
the way you can pivot and evolve and grow. There's so many people in the industry, and so many of our ambassadors started on their trade and now they're site supervisors for some of the biggest, baddest construction companies. Business development, you can move into architecture. I've got a friend that's a carpenter for years and then moved into architecture because he discovered he had a bit of a flair for design.
Endless possibilities.
And then it gives him, you know, he's looking at things on plans and talking to people going, that can't be done for that money or in that time frame, or like he's got that foundational knowledge. And it's something that I think is important. And also, a lot of students coming through going, they want to go study construction management at university, and I'm always saying, great, do it, but do a chippy apprenticeship first, do a trade first, build that foundation, and then you can, when you're walking around on site, not only the more respect you'll command on site because they know that you've done it, but you do know what you're talking about, and you're going to be so much better at your job if you've got that understanding. So I'm a huge believer in a trade should be the foundation and the first step in your career that you then build upon. The possibilities are endless. And also the safety net. You know, if I lost my job tomorrow, for whatever reason, I can jump back on the tools, I can work for friends, I can do it. I've got that skill set that I will always have work if I need it.
100%.
Fantastic. You feel the same way?
Absolutely. And the life skills that you sort of acquire on the way, you know, you can do little fix-it jobs at home.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm quite into woodwork, so telecommunications doesn't really call for many cash jobs, I'll be honest. But I do make a whole heap of stuff out of timber at home, like furniture, a whole heap of things. And those are the skills that I've kind of acquired along the way as well that I'll have with me forever. You know?
That's one of the things I think people don't realise is that if you start an apprenticeship in plumbing or electrical or data cabling, you know, you're not just going to be doing data cabling. Like as you go along, you end up, you know, you put a trimmer in here, and then you fix this noggin here, and then you do a bit of plasterboarding, and then all of a sudden, like 4 years go down the track, and you realise, like, man, I could reno my bathroom, you know, or like fix a room in my house if I wanted to. So you learn so many like transferable skills onto other things. That's important for people to know, because I think sometimes these kids might think they get pigeonholed into, from a plumber's perspective, just like unblocking poo. But it's not really like that at all. You know?
100%. And also the life skills that come with that, also the confidence that comes with that just in life. There's so many transferable skills. The technical skills are great, but just the commitment, rocking up on time, presenting well, dealing with clients, you know, all that good stuff. And same thing, you know, the confidence of, I could rent in my bathroom, like I am capable of that. Having that confidence and that skill set. So it's not just the technical skills of knowing your trade, it's also everything that follows on from that. Is
definitely.
Perfect. So and I think schools are definitely coming around to that. And the emergence of school-based apprenticeships coming through, as Amanda touched on earlier, is huge, and schools are slowly but surely coming around to that fact of what can we do to support these students rather than just get the outcome of, you know, schools sell themselves in the completion rate. We know that. You know, send your kid here. We have a 98% completion rate that your child will finish year 12. So being able to do a school-based apprenticeship, start that in year 12, and have your cake and eat it too. The school gets the completion rate, the student gets out of the classroom a bit and gets a head start on their career. It's a win-win for everybody. You know? So slowly but surely, the wider world is coming around to the fact that it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, so good. Amanda, how does you spoke about it before, and how does the school-based apprenticeship work? That was one of the things I was really interested to find out. You know, like you were saying, like, is there some Cert 2 subjects or something they can do, and then it takes time off their apprenticeship?
It definitely does. So you get recognition of prior learning, I believe, from Cert 2 with the modules that you complete, which assists in your Cert 3, you know, your 4-year apprenticeship. So I believe, and don't quote me on it, but maybe some of the time, like you don't have to finish 4 years if you've done a Cert 2.
I think, to my understanding, a Cert 2 is essentially most of the first year of your trade schooling is what a Cert 2 is.
Okay.
So it's appealing for employers because you get an apprentice come on that's done a Cert 2 in plumbing. You didn't have to send them to trade school for half as long. Or the first year, essentially, so it's saving you money as well because you're not having to pay for their trade schooling and all that sort of thing. And some foundational skill sets.
So at least if it doesn't take time off their apprenticeship, which we'll look into, I suppose, and I'll put it in the show notes, it's more about it's definitely taking time off their trade school. I'm pretty confident of that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then in year 12 you can, from year 10 you can really tailor your subjects. So teachers are really, really good. You know, they know what they're talking about. They can help kids choose the right subjects. So maths is a big one for a lot of trades. Physics, you know, is like lends itself very well to electrical. And I know there's a big push on making the subjects relevant to a trade as well. So there's a lot going on. The government is very proactive in sort of making it a learning space that is guaranteeing a decent future and a good understanding, a good foundation to becoming an apprentice.
And is it all schools doing this, or is it like mostly the vet specific schools, or can you get this done at any school?
Yeah, all schools have the capability to do it. It's just whether they're aware of how, if they've got the right connections to do a cert to or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So something that a student has to sort of know they want to do from year 10, from mid-year 10, they have to, if they want to do a school-based apprenticeship in year 12, they have to start making the right decisions in year 10 to get their subject selection, as Amanda touched on, right. So they have to structure their SACE a bit differently to someone that is just going to complete school through to year 12. There's a little bit of chopping and changing and rearranging so that they can have that free time in year 12 to get out on the tools a couple of days a week. So it's a decision that they have to make quite early. But if they do, and they can, and their schools across it, their vet coordinators are across it, and whoever their SACE coordinator is, any school's got the capability.
So typically the person to speak to in the school environment would be
your vet coordinator.
The vet coordinator.
The vet coordinator is probably the first point of contact, and they'll probably liaise with whoever's structuring their SACE.
Okay.
Is the way to go about it.
Yeah, awesome. I don't know if this is going to be like people aren't going to, a bit of a controversial question, but that sort of old school way of thinking where, because I come across it a lot actually with kids that come across my desk, and they say for instance, as a real world example, they're just started year 12, they know they want to be a tradie, but they have this that old school sort of mentality that gets passed down from the parents is, no matter what, you still have to finish your SACE and then you can go and start your apprenticeship. And from my real world perspective is look, it's still important to finish school no matter what. That's important if that's what you want to do. But I would say I've met so many people along the way, friends as well, people that I work with, who went and finished year 12 because they wanted their SACE, but no one I've ever known in the real world has ever actually used that SACE or needed that SACE. I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts on that is, because I don't want to be saying to kids you shouldn't finish school, but like for me, I actually benefited massively from getting out of school at like the start of year 12 when I got suspended 3 times for being a little rat bag. I did get that 1 year head start. I didn't try, I got a mate who did all of year 12 trying to get his SACE, knowing he wanted to be a plumber, and he didn't even get it anyway. He failed, and there was just like a year down. He could have just started. So, what's your thoughts on that?
So, I'll be honest.
Answer.
So, when we go into school presentations, I think the big push, because it's important to parents and it's important to schools, as Ryan was mentioning.
Yeah.
So we definitely, I don't think it's our place to say leave school. Don't worry about SACE kind of thing, because I think that's stepping on a few toes.
Yeah, definitely.
But what I would say is, with the school-based apprenticeships, it's great to have the support of your teachers, of the school. It's a good support network to have. So it's not like you're having one or the other. You don't have to stay at school and just be doing the regular subjects like when we were younger kind of thing. There are those possibilities out there, so you can be starting. Like I was saying before, you can be a good chunk into your apprenticeship and still finish your SACE. Yeah. So you get
the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So I would be very careful. Yeah, it's not my place to
I knew it would be a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
I think it's very situational. I think it's definitely, if you've got someone, a student that is really struggling at school and really doesn't like yourself or getting into trouble and stuff, well, you need to make the best decision for that.
That's a good
for that student.
A good way of putting
it. It's silly to try and force them into square peg round hole situation. If they really want to get out of there, I think it's silly to try and keep them there.
I can just hear my parents going,
Yeah.
no, you should finish school, you know.
And this is exactly why.
Yeah.
And that was why
yeah.
back then the focus was finish year 12, go to uni, and then you can do whatever you want with your life.
But even having this ability to do a school-based apprenticeship, I never had that back in the mid-2000s when I finished school. So that's just awesome. Like
I said, it's definitely, the landscape's evolving and changing, and I think schools are coming around to that. Okay, this isn't, what we've been doing isn't working, or is not getting the best results as often as it could. So how can we pivot and make it better? But there definitely is, to your point, a bit of a stigma and stereotype with parents about, especially when you start getting to the top tier schools and it costs a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't spend this much on your education if you become a bloody brookie. That's a lot of some of the stuff we get. So, and we sort of, as us that know in the trades, we sort of just laugh and go, yeah, but the brookie's going to be earning more than the accountant or whatever it is you go and do anyway, you know. So it's a bit of a backwards thought process, and I think that'll just change over time with education. I think just, us at Born to Build are looking to do some parent stuff. Some of the schools are bringing in the parents for vet education nights and trying to showcase the appeal of doing a Cert 2 or a school-based apprenticeship, and we're just trying to get behind that as much as we can. But I think, to answer, that is a tough question. I think if anyone has I struggled at school I just lost seeing the value. I wanted to be out there working. I did get through it, and I'm glad that I did. But I can certainly see there was a lot of friends that you either get them into an apprenticeship or you let them do what they want to do, or they're going to act out, like you said, and just not get the benefits. And like I said, be a year behind wherever they are. So quite situational, but I think there are benefits to students leaving school in the right circumstance.
Yeah, definitely.
Spot on, Ryan.
That is, they're both good answers. I knew it would be, it is a tough question to answer because, you don't want to step on the toes, and it is important to finish school, but it is definitely situational as well. Like, if I had have been, forced into doing school, God knows what would have happened. I would have, it just, wouldn't have worked. So, some kids just might be best for them to get out, but also it is important to finish SACE, and that's why that school-based apprenticeship is just huge now.
Like I said, have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
The school gets their completion, the parents are happy, and the students out there working 3 or 4 days a week on the tools as well as a day at school, which also lends itself to completion rates too, because we find that students that are doing school-based apprenticeships the completion rate for their apprenticeship goes through the roof. Getting through that first year is critical, and having the extra support and familiarity of school 1 or 2 days a week helps massively.
So if there was a kid in that situation listening to this, what's the process for them? We've touched on it before with the vet coordinators, but can they get in touch with the master builders, like the Born to Build program directly, and you guys help them out, or how does the Born to Build program function in that way?
Yeah, so do you want to say this?
No, go for it, you're right.
So they can definitely get on the website, borntobuild.com.au, born to number 2, and then we've got heaps of information. That the handbook is available as a digital copy there, and we're really encouraging kids to do their research. There's a big misconception about what the trades are. What does it involve? What does a typical day look like? And so it kind of spells out, a lot of the trades there. What sort of things could you be good at that would lend itself well to the trades? What sort of money you might be on once you're qualified? So there's all that sort of good stuff there. Some tips on, where to go. So on Born to Build, there's an application form there that you can fill out that comes to Ryan and myself, and then we contact these people one-on-one and then give them more information and some steps to sort of follow from there. Awesome.
And is it the same from the school's perspective? If the schools want to get you guys out to...
Definitely. We've got an inquiry form on there, which the students can also use as well. So, if you're a student or a teacher and you want more information, or you're sitting there going, what do I do? How do I... this is something that sounds really good. They listen to this podcast and go, how do I start a school-based apprenticeship? You can do an inquiry form on the website, and that'll come through to both Amanda and myself. We'll give you a call, and we're more than happy. We won't do it. We won't be the one sitting down with your vet coordinator. You've got to do that. But we can certainly say to you, look, this is what you need to be asking. This is what you need to be saying, and we're here to help walk through to get the process started and point you in the right direction. Yeah,
and you touched on the handbook, Amanda. That thing is absolutely elite. I never had any.
Is that just
none
because,
of us?
Is that just because you're in it?
Look, I don't, yours truly's in there. But I wasn't happy with the photo. I didn't know I was going to go. I did know a little bit.
The photo's
I just
fine.
told
The
my
photo's
wife.
good.
Anyway, let's not go there. It's not about me. That handbook is just unbelievable. Is it what you would call like a prospectus? Is that what they call it for uni? I swear that there's that term.
It is now.
Yeah.
How do the schools get a hold of this handbook? Because that is just the most incredible piece of like literature you guys have brought out. And can you just maybe just touch on what the handbook is all about?
Sure,
That'd be awesome.
They can do an inquiry form on the website, and we're more than happy to bring physical copies out. It can also be downloaded off the website straight to your desktop, so you can have it in a PDF format, which is great. But yeah, it was really sort of the first time I think that the industry's had that broad, this is everything in the Bible of the industry sort of thing of potential apprenticeships, and not only apprenticeships but even white collar jobs. It's got interior designing in there, like every single avenue in building and construction is touched on in this book, and it's just one page on each job, clear, concise information, not overloading, not wordy for those younger students. It's just a bit of a one-stop shop for information. And like I said, universities have been putting out those books for years and years with all the core subjects and information and all this sort of stuff, and buildings had nothing. Once again, if your dad's an accountant, your mum's a lawyer, what chance have you got of knowing what opportunities are out there? So it's the first time that the industry's really had something, and something that the Born to Build team and Master Builders are very proud of.
Oh yeah, it's so, and it's like one of those things when it comes out, you think like, why? I can't believe this wasn't out 30 years ago. This is like, seems 100%. Like a no-brainer, but
definitely
now it's there and it's physically the kids can see. Because am I right in saying it shows a little bit of like what, for instance, you might be interested in, and what that like your personal interests are, and that how that might transfer over to like what type of apprenticeship you might be
definitely
interested in.
Sort of says daily tasks are like helps to be good at. So obviously, if you're going to do, bricklaying is quite a physical job, so it says helps to be physically fit, enjoy the outdoors and things like that. So you're not just in an office sending emails. It sort of gives you that perspective.
The kids who might think about taking up a bricklaying apprenticeship, it's like you don't even have to go to the gym. Like you're just doing, you do a bricklaying apprenticeship and you get to stay like physically in good nick as well.
That's
it's
so
like
true. So
even
true.
these little things people don't think of.
I'm 3 months off the tools and I need to join a gym.
It catches up quickly, when you get a bit older, like mid-30s or whatever, and you just look at the cake and it's put on a kilo.
100%.
Absolutely.
But when you're bricklaying or digging trenches or a lot, or doing the normal apprenticeship things, or in your trade, geez, you just keep fit as well.
We find that's why it lends itself to sporting clubs and communities so nicely as well. Because anyone that goes to their, if anyone's involved in any local footy club or any sporting club, really, you see that there's quite a big, a lot of the gun players or that sort of thing tend to be tradies or tend to live that lifestyle and have the nice ute and all that stuff and live that lifestyle and keep, organically keep fit throughout their job. Yeah, it's great.
Is there anything that kids who potentially might be, say they're year 8 or 9 and they're starting to think, I think even at that age, the schools are trying to get them to think about where they want to be. What are some of the important things these students need to start to be looking at? Because for instance, I'm thinking of things like doing your white card or doing X course or getting police clearance certificate. Like, is there some things that you could suggest that these kids should be thinking about doing?
Definitely. So if there is a possibility of Cert 2, definitely do that. And during Cert 2, you'll get your white card. We're definitely saying to these young kids, get your driver's license as soon as you can, because obviously getting to and from site, that's definitely a big one. Do your research. There's so much out there. I'm pretty confident that there's a trade that would appeal to most people. So a lot of kids aren't aware of all the trades. So someone builds a house. It's not just the builder that builds from go to woe. You've got all of these trades that are involved at different stages. So when I told my mum and dad, so like I said, the big push was university. When I called them from Darwin and said I was thinking about doing a trade, Dad said, okay. So at that stage I thought I wanted to be a sparky because I'd never heard of a telecommunications technician. And he said, that's interesting. How about becoming a plumber instead? And then I said, no, I think I want to be an electrician. And he said, okay, no worries. Talk to as many electricians as you can to find out what a typical day involves where you might be working, what you might be doing, who you might be working with, how long does a build last. Try and piece the puzzle together, and if it still appeals to you, go for it. And so that's what I did.
That's a great idea. Because I can still remember it like it was yesterday, like started my plumbing apprenticeship, and I basically just had no idea. I fell into it luckily, but I didn't really have any idea what a plumber did at all.
We find it a lot. I want to be a carpenter. Oh, tell me what does a carpenter do? Well, they're just a builder, aren't they? I actually have no idea what, formwork, carpentry, second fix, first fix, like no idea what is involved in, and that's for every trade. Do you know what I mean? So it's a really good point, and Amanda pushes it quite hard, which I think is good, is that doing your research in finding out what it is that you're actually interested in and what it is you really want to do. But as Amanda said perfectly, driver's license, white card are the two massive ones. There's been a bit of a shift with driver's license lately, we're noticing. This sort of new generation coming through, it doesn't seem to be a priority. If you want to trade, it's a priority. You need to have
it definitely
license.
is.
There's no ifs, ands or buts about it. You need your driver's license.
And do you guys know much about that CITB driving program?
A little bit. So to my understanding, they will fund 3 driving lessons for a very minimal, I don't know the actual logistics, but 3. And then if you can secure a letter offer of employment, they will fund for another 7 or 8, I think.
I was going to say 6.
6.
A lot.
Around that day. So basically, and that's just to ensure that they're serious about it. They're not going to be wasting it. And they've put the effort in to do their research, find where they want to go, and are actively looking to pursue it.
Well, we won't get anyone to hold us to the actual stats on it, but at least it's important for people to know that there is this CITB drivers program, because I don't think a lot of these, because that's a challenge a lot of these kids have, is it's expensive to get your driver's license, and it's a massive investment for your parents. They have to do like 70 or 80 hours in the car with you. So that is a barrier for these kids, and like you said, you have to have that is absolute. You need your license to get into a trade, so it's important for them to just know that that's out there.
If you can get your white card, you can get your driver's license, and you can have a bit of experience, whether that's a Cert 2 in construction or plumbing or electrical, or just some experience out on site with someone, you're setting yourself up perfectly. You're putting yourself in prime position to kick goals. Can we before we wrap up, can we ask you a question? Is that allowed?
I've got one more question. Then
go for it. Yeah, sure.
No, you can ask me. I'll come back to this question.
Just because he's in the handbook.
Do you want me to autograph the handbook? Or go on, ask me.
Something that I like to touch on in this role and in this industry is, money's great and that's all really important, but is the fulfillment of the industry. So there's something about this industry that I think no other industry has in regards to being able to touch and physically put your hands on and see what sometimes literally your blood, sweat and tears has gone into. And that was always my fulfillment, was stepping back at the end of the day and seeing a happy client and seeing my work. And that's what gave me, the warm and fuzzy.
Sense of achievement.
Can I ask what it is for you? You've been very successful in this industry and you've built up quite a great company. And I know that you're very passionate about this industry. Can I ask where you find your fulfillment? What is it for you at the end of the day?
The first thing,
I think that's important for new people coming through to see where that's coming from.
My fulfillment initially was, like you said, because we operate in the insurance industry a lot, so it's the having someone coming to you, like a lot of the time we'd have people coming to me like crying, bawling their eyes out, I got this water leak, this is totally from a plumbing perspective, no one's been able to find it, and then we come in and find it, or these people have just a problem, any general, like sometimes these problems are big problems and we can get to the bottom of it and fix it. Now, that was initially what I used to get a lot of the fulfillment from. Now I feel like it's actually from a business owner's perspective, it's definitely for giving other people really good opportunities. That's where I really get off now, awesome. From a company owner's perspective. Like for instance, Luke, our operations manager here, I love just giving people an opportunity, giving them the space, and just seeing them grow into their role. Like that's really what gets me now. I've got a few people who, like Nathan, our leak detection manager, he just, I think from he would admit to saying that he thought he was just going to be a plumber for his whole life, and then he came in here and the business was growing and we realised, like, geez, we need someone to manage this department for us. And he was like, I offered it to him and he was really unsure about it, just never even thought it would be a possibility in his career. And now I've just seen him flourish into just like owning this whole space of our business. And I guess that now is what really gives me the fulfillment.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a great example of how, like we were talking about earlier, about you're never just a tradie, everything can evolve. So even your fulfillment in the industry has evolved from being a tradie to being a business owner, and I'm sure it'll continue to change.
100%.
Thank you. I think it's important. Something I touch on a lot is the fulfillment of the industry. It's not just always about money, and it's not just always about what you do. It's also where you get your you fill your cup up
That's
from.
so important.
Yeah. So
thanks for asking me, because that made me think about it. It made me feel good. I probably just want, the last question I want to ask Ryan or Amanda is, do you have any like tips or advice for a young person who might be, is going to an interview for, because I think just one that popped into my head, and I don't want to steal your answer, but is I have kids who come in here and they say, I've been looking at your website, and I know you guys do this and this and this, and I got, that's pretty. So they're coming into like the interview
prepared,
and they're telling me about my business, and I'm just like, wow, okay, so that's awesome. So I just wanted to know if you guys have any tips in how to your appearance and how to present yourself, and because I think that's important for these kids to know, because it's different from if you're doing it can be different if you're doing an interview in a trade company. Like they might think it's like they're going to interview for Google because they see it all on Netflix. It might be a different environment. So I just want to know if you had any advice for those kids.
Yeah, I love that, doing a bit of research. I think that would I think that's a great start. Definitely be punctual. Definitely think about your appearance. Maybe don't overdo it. Tux probably isn't necessary, but neat and casual.
Collar at least, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And just prior preparation prevents poor performance. So really have a think about where you want it to get you. Start thinking about what questions they might be asking you. So in my interview at Peer, so I had no idea what an electrician really did. I had a very, very limited understanding. And one of the questions was, what's the difference between first fix and second fix? And my answer was, first fix is when you put the wires in, and second fix is when you connect the wires. Which is not too far off the mark.
Pretty close.
But I probably could have done a little bit better. Yeah, that's right. And that's why I became a telecommunications technician. I would think, I would say, do your research. Like I keep saying, do your research. Work out, if you really want it, work hard for it. And be punctual. Don't touch your phone. Leave your phone in your pocket.
Yes.
And make eye contact, speak clearly, really believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's great advice.
I think, I couldn't say any more than that. Just, I'm a big believer in attitude over aptitude. So if you rock in,
100%.
A lot of time we're finding that students go, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know.
Glad you said that.
I can teach you all the technical skills in the world. I can teach you everything you need to know about the trade. That's the whole point of an apprenticeship. That's why we've got 4 years together to learn these technical skills. What I can't teach is your attitude, your work ethic, whether you rock up with a smile or not, whether you ask questions, So even if you're sitting in an office having an interview, okay, I know a little bit about the website. Look, I'm not going to lie, I don't really know much about leak detection, but I'm really keen to learn, and I'm all about it. And I've noticed that you do insurance work, and look, I'm not going to lie, I've never done it before, but God, I'm keen, And that'll visibly show through, and that's something I've always looked for, and a big believer in attitude over aptitude every day of the week.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's so important. I think a lot of people can get caught up in being afraid that they don't know everything. It's like, it's not even about that. It's just all it is about attitude. Yeah. Because like you said, we're here to teach you the skills. We don't expect you to come in with any skills whatsoever.
That's what an apprenticeship is learning.
So don't let that hold you back. It's just about having the right attitude.
Yeah, definitely. So presentation's important too. I remember sitting on an interview with my boss when I was the manager at the time, and this bloke rocked in wearing a denim jacket with like the fur and a hat, and he sat down and didn't take his hat off, and I was just like that. I'm sure he was probably stupid not to hire him. I'm sure he was a fantastic tradesman, but that just implied he didn't care, that he just, it definitely gave the wrong impression, even if he wore that coat but he took it off and took his hat off when he came and sat down, it would have done him the world of good. But it just didn't give,
it's little things like that.
Say, physical appearance doesn't matter. It goes a long way. Those first impressions matter.
100%.
So dress appropriately. Like I said, it doesn't need to be a tux. We are trades at the end of the day, but still important. And yeah, attitude for me is massive. Just being keen.
And so lastly, you've touched on it before, it's borntobuild.com.au, but with a 2 as the 2.
Yes.
Socials, whereabouts do they hit you guys
Yeah, same
up?
thing, Instagram, Facebook, all on those.
Just search Born to Build.
Yep, that's it. It'll be there.
Well, thanks Ryan and Amanda for coming on the Plumbify podcast. I can tell you for sure it would have been so beneficial to have something like the Born to Build program when I was at school, especially including the Born to Build handbook, which I just love. The work you guys at Master Builders is doing is so important right now, and I think the future is looking really bright for anyone who wants to get into a trade. So thanks again, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to another Plumbify podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and all the usual podcast platforms.